All right, are we ready? Good afternoon, my friends, legislators, coalition members, members of the press, members of the public. I am delighted to see you here today. My name is Destie Hohman Sprague. I'm the director of the Maine Women's Lobby, and we are proud to convene the 37 member partners of the Maine Paid Leave Coalition. Almost every person in Maine will need to take time to care for themselves, for a loved one, for a new baby, for an aging parent. And sometimes that care means taking time away from work, because caring for your family is a Maine value. That's why 30 years ago, Congress passed the Family and Medical Leave Act. Maine was actually on the forefront of that work, and my organization was proud to be leaders in that effort. We were ahead of the national wave by 6 years. A lot has changed in 36 years. But not a lot has changed for family and medical leave. 77% of Mainers still can't access that benefit. Most people still go back to work less than 12 weeks after giving birth. In fact, 1 in 4 people go back to work within 10 days of giving birth. We know that's not okay. We know we can do better. And that's why we are here today, because it is time to create a system of paid family and medical leave for Maine. I invite you to hear from our coalition partners, from our neighbors, from our community members, to understand what a Maine without paid family leave looks and feels like. I'd like to begin with Ronny Flannery from the Southern Maine Workers Center. Thanks, Ronny.
Hi everyone, my name is Ronny Flannery. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an organizer for the Southern Maine Workers Center, and want to thank you so much for inviting me to be here today and to speak. I'd love to just share a little bit about this beautiful coalition represented behind us, what I feel are some of the strengths and values that we represent, and wanted to say first that paid family and medical leave is just an absolutely crucial protection that Mainers have needed since long before the COVID-19 pandemic hit our state, but that the work of the coalition really calls me back to the crises that pandemic working conditions revealed to us all about, and the momentum that we've been building over the last several years to advocate for frontline workers and care workers, from grocery store workers to healthcare providers, whose essential work supports us all to thrive, but which has consistently and continues to put them in harm's way. We love this coalition and are still a part of it because of the solidarity we feel across our different experiences of oppression under this economy, because of the mighty value of working together across those differences, and because an effort like this affects too many of us and too many of our loved ones to fight for alone. I feel the power of our relationships and our value systems can be transformative, but that can also be harder to measure, so I was gonna just name a little bit of what we've been up to since this coalition began, which is to say we've advocated for the creation of the Maine State Paid Family Leave Commission, whose report we'll hear later today. We've supported experts to be appointed to that commission. We've testified to, we've followed, and we are uplifting that commission's findings. We've also gathered, with the help of some incredible powerhouses, more than 80,000 signatures to put this issue on the ballot. And we've steadily grown from a core of about 10 organizations to a broad coalition, I think as of today, including more than 40 organizations, inclusive of anyone really who values the intersection of gender, racial, and economic justice. I'll just end real quickly by saying, as Destie highlighted, we're rallying today specifically to mark the 30th anniversary of the Family and Medical Leave Act, which is a law that has protected millions of workers across the United States from facing retaliation for taking time off, but which has never been enough to truly protect workers and their families. I'm here today to support the call on this legislature to pass and enact a paid family and medical leave policy that is consistent with the recommendations of the Commission. And thank you so much. I'll pass it to
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I have my letter here addressed to whom this may concern, and this should concern everyone. Hello, my name is Sessa Salas. I am the director of a child care center, Cooperative Preschool in Camden. I am here today to express my support and need for a paid family medical leave system here in Maine. Our job in child care is to provide a safe and educational environment where not only children can thrive, but also their families. Our job is also to provide the essential service of caring for children so that those in the workforce can keep the economy going. Doctors, nurses, teachers, lawyers, fishermen, carpenters, retail workers, business owners, government employees, farmers, builders, musicians, you name it. Public, private, for-profit, nonprofit, every sector of the economy has children, and those who work and have children in those sectors, all sectors, cannot work without childcare. Simply put, there would be no economy if we did not do our job. I read an article in Exchange magazine from November 2020 that said that, and I quote, in 2014, CNN identified child care center director as one of the most stressful and underpaid jobs in America. Note that this was 6 years before we had a global pandemic. I can assure you that the stress of that experience sent those of us with the weight of staying open during normal times into a whole other dimension of stress, and yes, trauma. I can say with absolute confidence that I have never experienced anything harder in all of my life. And I have not had an easy life. I grew up in poverty. I had a mother with mental illness. I have experienced homelessness and food insecurity. I have worked incredibly hard to break the cycle of poverty and abuse. As a matter of fact, I devoted my working life to helping others who are disadvantaged. I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer supporting at-risk teenagers in Wyoming. After that, I found myself in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, helping to support formerly homeless families and individuals transitioning from the streets into permanent housing. I've been back in Maine for 15 years, and young children are now at the core of what I spend my time on. Investing in them and their families, giving them a strong foundation, an equal chance and opportunity, that is a purpose I believe in, and one I hope everyone can believe in. As any small business owner knows, staffing is the key to keeping the doors open. In my 10 years as director, I can cite many examples of when paid family and medical leave would have helped with staff retention by preventing the loss of valuable employees or saved us money in staff turnover, sending a message to the hardworking, underpaid, essential workers in our field that they are valued and supported. At my preschool, 100% of the employees are women. Is this a surprise? Of course not. The field of early childhood education is a caregiving profession. Women are caregivers. As a matter of fact, not only do I have an all-female staff, 9 out of 10 of those who make up my board of directors are also women. And furthermore, we are a cooperative preschool, and more often than not, women are the ones participating, contributing, and devoting their time to helping out in the classroom, providing snack for the class, running fundraising meetings and events, etc. The list goes on and on. They do this work because not only are women the caregivers, they are often the communicators, the ones who seek and foster community, At my preschool, we believe young children thrive when there is a connection to a greater community. At our school, we believe there is value in being part of something bigger than ourselves. At our school, we believe in, teach, and model civic responsibility. I should mention that I do not seek out women to hire. It just so happens that they are the ones who apply for this type of work. I would love to have male teachers be role models for the young boys in our program. From my perspective as the director of a child care center, I do see a cultural shift starting to happen. Men are taking on more of the household responsibilities, volunteering, helping with child care, etc. More and more, dads are dropping children off in the morning and picking up in the afternoon. I am seeing them serving on committees and helping out in the classroom. There has been progress in shifting the cultural norms, without a doubt. However, the people who end up in my office breaking down and crying from absolute overwhelm and exhaustion are the mothers. It is always the mothers. They are almost always the ones who stay home from work to take care of the sick child. They are almost always the ones who tell me about a loved one who needs help, an aging parent they are caring for, or the one stepping up to support a friend in need. Most of the women on my staff are also mothers, myself included. Despite my demanding job, it is almost always me who stays home to care for my children when they are sick. It is the same for the mothers who work for me. Because they are the lower paid, second income earners in the family, they are the ones who miss work to stay home and take care of the children. So I could tell you about the lead preschool teacher's daughter who was diagnosed with leukemia, and that teacher took the year off to take care of her daughter, and I paid her a small retainer monthly while she was gone in hopes that she would return, which she did. Or about the teacher I have currently on my staff who had a death in the family and needed an unexpected week off and who didn't have enough PTO to cover those missed days. I paid her for that time so she could grieve properly and travel to the funeral without feeling as if it will impact her ability to pay her bills. I could also tell you about the single mother of 5 who supports them by working at my child care center. That this particular teacher is the most reliable I have, but that would be misleading. A different way to describe it is that she cannot afford to miss work and therefore doesn't. I want to be clear though, this is a systemic issue. As Jessica Gross, the New York Times writer who publishes a column called On Parenting says, investing in children, and families isn't just a handout to women. More people and more politicians understand that childcare and paid leave are policy questions of broader concern and part of the necessary infrastructure that keeps society going and our entire economy humming along. She mentions a dad's caucus getting a lot of attention right now. This fact is ascertained by the February 2nd New York Times article, "They're Not Just Dads, They're Congressional Dads," written by Mark Tracy. Gross also, and very unapologetically, entitled her latest piece on the PFML, "Maybe we should convince men that paid leave is their idea." If that is what it takes, I'm with you, Jessica. The PFML is no longer a women's issue. It is everyone's. I realize it can take a long time for government to get things done. This particular issue doesn't need to be resolved now. It should have happened 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago. It is time to make sure those who need this funding and support receive it. 85% of Maine caregivers are women. We are the ones taking care of the children in the state of Maine and in this country. It's time to take care of us. Paid family medical leave is possible. Please join me in reminding our lawmakers that we can do this, and Maine needs to pass and enact a PFML program that is consistent with the recommendations of the Commission. This law has helped millions of U.S. workers have job security when they need to take time off to care for themselves or their families, but as a small business owner, I know that it is painfully inadequate. It is time for more. It is time for paid family and medical leave.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan. I have been an advocate for women and children for over a decade since I was a student in Lewiston High School. 2 years ago, I founded Her Safety Net, a community-based nonprofit which works with people who are experiencing gender-based violence. At Her Safety Net, we focus on women's personal, professional, health, and economic development. We meet them where they need to be met. This allows them to flourish in our community and makes our community stronger in turn. I'm here today because it's time for Mainers to come together to do the same for ourselves and for each other. It's time to pass a paid family and medical leave policy that will benefit everyone in Maine. Here is what PFML will look like in my line of work. Someone going through domestic violence will get time to figure out what to do, where to live, who to contact, without worrying about not having food on the table. They have time to see a doctor if they need to, time to heal. For most of us, missing even a day's paycheck isn't an option. But sometimes we need time off so we can come back stronger. When people can't take medical or safe leave, they can be fired or have to quit and might have trouble re-entering the workforce. But if someone can take a few weeks leave, they can start right where they left. People can come back to a job where they have built good relationships, where they feel confident they can excel, and that helps them build a stronger work environment. Now, my personal story about why every worker in Maine needs to access to paid family and medical leave. My family came to the US when I was 16 years old, and my mom began working at Walmart as soon as she got her work permit. She worked there for 7 years, and in April of last year, she got injured. The company told her after 2 days out that she must return or she will lose her job, even after providing a note from her doctor. This was not the first time. She had been injured many times at work before, but she never complained because she didn't want it to endanger her livelihood and she needed to provide for her family. This isn't an uncommon story, as we all know. It's time to create a better future for our state. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are from, or what you do for a living. We all need to take time to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. We should all be able to do this without having to choose between working while injured or feeding our families. Let's do this together. We know Mainers need and support a strong paid leave program, and the Commission has made a strong recommendation to create such a program. Please join us in urging our lawmakers to enact the Commissioner's recommendation and create a paid family and medical leave program that works for all Mainers. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bucciantini. I am the volunteer state president for AARP Maine. For those of you who may not be familiar with AARP, we're the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering Americans aged 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. In Maine alone, we have over 200,000 members. I'd like to take a few moments to share with you the unquestionable importance of Maine's 181,000 unpaid family caregivers. 181,000 unpaid caregivers. Many Mainers either are or have been family caregivers, or odds are many of us will be in the future. A family caregiver provides support to an older adult, a sibling, a spouse, a child, or another loved one. They may provide complex care such as administering injections or helping with a feeding tube. Other caregivers may help with everyday activities such as delivering groceries, preparing meals, or driving someone back and forth to medical appointments. No matter who they care for or what they offer in their role, as that caregiver, we know they're a vital part of Maine and are an essential part of our long-term care system. Unfortunately, they're also often unrecognized. They take on monetary expenses and experience great stress in their efforts to provide care for their loved ones. And they do this with unwavering commitment. We've heard many caregivers say, it's just what you do for those who you love. At AARP Maine, we recognize these important Mainers for all their work while taking care of loved ones, and are here today that we can and we need to do a better job of supporting them. For many Maine caregivers in our state, a paid family medical leave program would be a lifeline. Maine's family caregivers provide critical support and often do so while juggling a full or part-time job. The stress of balancing both can be daunting. Lack of workplace support can result in individuals quitting their jobs or experiencing their own negative health outcomes. Maine family caregivers need a family medical leave program, and they need it now. Access to paid family medical leave is vital for caregivers like Melissa from Bangor, who quit her job in 2021 to become a full-time caregiver for her mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. These are Melissa's words. I had every intention of continuing to work, but soon learned it was overwhelming to manage both. My job was coming back strong after the pandemic and was requiring me to give 150% of my energy. I felt like my home life was also needing another 150%. I only had about 50% left to give. We cannot continue to ask Maine's family caregivers to give 200% of themselves while balancing work and caregiving. This is why Maine must initiate paid family medical leave. Maine's 181,000 family caregivers have been providing care for years without complaint. It's what we do. We have an opportunity here to create a program that works for Maine and for Maine families. Caring for mom or dad or another loved one can be expensive, stressful, and isolating. And it shouldn't mean giving up your pay or your job. Across Maine, family caregivers help older parents, spouses, and other loved ones live independently at home, where we all want to be. The time is now to support the creation of paid family medical leave for Maine. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mattie, Daughtry, and I am proud to serve as the Assistant Senate Majority Leader in the Maine State Senate. And I am honored to serve as the co-chair of the commission that's working to create a paid family medical leave policy for Maine. And I am especially excited today to be here with this broad coalition of Mainers advocating for paid family medical leave. This is an issue that is deeply personal to me, as both a business owner and as a young woman who hopes to one day start a family. I have this vivid memory that I keep coming back to time and time again when discussing this. I'm lucky that I live very close to my small business, and I was listening to a podcast as I was walking to work. And in the podcast, it was talking about the patchwork of laws across our nation about paid family medical leave. And it was talking about how rare it is for any US citizen to have access. And I distinctly remember coming to the back of my brewery, touching the door handle, looking inside, seeing it filled with people, and having this pain of sadness, as I realized as someone who is self-employed that this might not be a benefit I might ever see. And that vivid memory has never left me. As a business owner, it also struck me because this is something I want to offer to my employees. Having a statewide policy on paid family leave, just now as we have a statewide policy on earned paid leave, will be an equalizer for businesses across the state, This will help businesses like mine be able to not only attract, but retain quality, amazing workers. More than 120 countries, think about that, 120 countries have paid leave policies, and the US is not one of them. This, combined with the scarcity of childcare services, puts incredible pressures on our young families. And at the same time, especially in Maine, we're seeing a growing sandwich generation. Working adults who are caught between needing to take care of their children as well as caring for aging parents. And at this rate, I'm looking right on track to be one of those sandwich generation members. 30 years ago, Congress passed the Family Medical Leave Act, which was at the time a major step forward. But FMLA does not cover enough workers and only guarantees unpaid time off, which means way too many Mainers are having to choose between losing a paycheck and often the ability to pay for groceries, rent, heat, or other bills, and not taking the time that they and their family need to have off. In 30 years, almost my entire lifespan, there has been no major progress at the federal level to improve guaranteed time off. Thankfully, here in Maine, we have a track record that we're not the kind of people who wait for DC politicians to take action. When we need something to be done, we get up and we act. That's why during my entire time in the legislature, I have been fighting for Maine to have a paid family medical leave policy. It's why I was so eager to launch the commission to create this right here in Maine, and why I'm so excited to be with you today. And to announce that finally, after 2 years of work this morning, the commission's final report has been released. The recommendations included in this report will be drafted into a bill to be considered by the legislature, which is an important, huge step forward. We've heard today why Maine needs this policy. It's something that I've been working on since I was first elected at the age of 25. While we're already leading the nation on statewide earned paid leave, it's become abundantly clear, especially during the pandemic and during my work with the commission, that this work needs to be done, and we desperately need this policy now. It was incredibly gratifying to work with Mainers across the state. This commission was made up not only by bipartisan legislators, but for folks representing different industries, from small businesses to larger businesses like LL Bean, to doctors who've worked with families and children, and we were able to hear from people on all sides of the aisle and from all walks of life. It was a broad coalition of people brought together to create a policy for Mainers, built by Mainers. We all knew we had an incredible opportunity to get this done and do it right, for Maine businesses, for Maine workers, and for Maine families. The work we did was complicated, as evidenced by the size of the report, but it was one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in this legislature. I'm eager for everyone to dig in, and I'm excited to finally make sure that Mainers have access to paid family medical leave this year. Yeah. I am extra honored to be able to introduce my esteemed co-chair, Representative Cloutier, who is also my counterpart in the House in leadership. And I have to say, working on this policy with her has been an absolute joy.
So welcome, friends, neighbors, and fellow Mainers. As Senator Daughtry mentioned, I'm Kristen Cloutier. I represent House District 60, which is part of my hometown of Lewiston in the Maine House of Representatives. And I also serve as the Assistant House Majority Leader. And I am honored to be here today with all of you, but also with Senator Daughtry, the Maine Paid Leave Coalition, those personally affected by the desperate need for paid family and medical leave in our state, and others who have helped to advance this increasingly important conversation over the past 2 years. Last year, I was honored to be appointed as the House Chair of the Commission to develop a paid family and medical leave benefits program. We were tasked with a multitude of duties that ranged from studying existing programs in other states, soliciting public comment, developing a plan, and making recommendations. In total, we held 6 meetings. We spent the first 4 establishing a foundation of information by hearing and learning from those who have been immersed in this work and have become experts. We then convened a public hearing and invited employees and employers to complete a survey that provided us additional data points. We also established a subcommittee to evaluate and select an outside firm to conduct an actuarial study. At our 6th meeting, we determined the specifics of the study and approved making a recommendation to the legislature that the commission be reauthorized to continue our work. Even before we came together to have these intentional conversations, we all brought with us an understanding that the people of Maine need a paid family and medical leave program now. If I had access to such, thank you. If I had access to such a program in 2012, my family would have been better equipped to take care of my mother, who had to move from her home in Florida to Maine after being diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in her early 70s. She did not require the level of care that was available through the locked memory care facilities close to our home, yet she did require someone to be with her 24 hours a day. And this care ended up falling primarily to my husband and me, who both also needed to work full-time to keep our household and family financially afloat, and all while raising our daughter. So welcome to the sandwich generation, Senator Daughtry. I was blessed to have this time with my mother, and I would not change our decision to take her into our home. I only wish that we had been able to take some time away from our jobs to do it, as I have no doubt that our time together would have been less stressful and more meaningful for all of us. I honor her memory by sharing this story with you and by putting in the work to develop a paid family and medical leave program that would give families like ours an opportunity to focus on the things that truly matter in life without worrying about how they will also make ends meet. This session, we have a momentous opportunity in the legislature to enhance Maine's care infrastructure. A statewide paid family and medical leave program will have immense benefits for Maine businesses and our state's economy, support working families, and set us on a better path to improved health and well-being, both now and well into the future. I want to personally thank you all for joining us today. Your support for this effort is both critical and appreciated.
Thank you for sharing your stories and experiences. We could go through everyone on these stairs behind me and the folks in front of me and hear more stories just like this, because we all have a paid leave story. But we know it doesn't have to be this way. We know another Maine is possible, one where we all have the opportunity to care for our families without sacrificing our financial security, and where small businesses can thrive. For too long, the need for care and caregivers have been overlooked, but thanks to the work of the Coalition and the Commission together, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and the path ahead could not be more clear. Let's look ahead now to the next 30 years for our economy, for our families, for our neighborhoods. Paid leave is powerful, it's affordable, and it's possible. And it's time, because care can't wait. Thank you.